Massey's Fight from Discrimination to Freedom by Lindsey Kirtleys. History proves that W.T. Massey was a civil rights leader known for dedication, sacrifice, and courage. After feeling the unfair prejudice of 1960s, Massey committed his life to taking proactive steps against racial discrimination, therefore effectively destroying racial limits in South Carolina, as well as enlarging freedoms of other African Americans in the state. W.T. Massey has expanded the freedoms of African Americans in his community and throughout the country due to his involvement in civil rights protests. Massey and the rest of the Friendship Nine, a civil rights activist group, were enmeshed in a famous demonstration in front of a lunch counter, and these men were some of the first to practice the strategy of jail no bail. This new jail no bail strategy was conceived by Massey's college, Friendship Junior College, in order to ease the financial strain for those continuing to have to provide bail money for the civil rights movement and its arrested protesters. These men popularized protesting peacefully at public all-white locations, and they brought increased media and political attention to the civil rights movement in South Carolina. The media had grown disinterested in the civil rights movement due to the constant use of the same tactics. So when these new ideas were developed, it caught their attention. The political parties had not seen the civil rights movement as serious or urgent. So when these new tactics were demonstrated, they saw the dedication the activists possessed and the effects they could have. On the morning of January 31st, 1961, W.T. Massey and a group of African American protesters peacefully protested outside an all-white lunch counter. These men then entered the counter, sat down, and asked for service. In return, they refused to be served and were brutally dragged out by police. The men were soon tried and found guilty for trespassing, even though they were not given more than 10 seconds to exit the counter, or they were dragged out of the store, as argued by the men's lawyer, Ernest Finney. These men put their jail no bail strategy into practice by refusing to pay bail, and they instead accepted their sentence of 30 days of labor in a prison farm. This action caused the movement to be on the headlines of newspapers in South Carolina, and there was an explosion of popularity with the movement. After this event, Massey School released a statement that they encouraged the event, and they believed that the doing of this event broke the cycle of continually paying money into an unfair legal system, but would also bring attention to the segregated nature of lunch counters and other public places. The civil rights movement was a mass movement to grant African Americans equal access to opportunities and to gain the rights of U.S. citizenship. African American men and women, both black and white, organized the movement at national and local levels, and they pursued their goals through nonviolent protest demonstrations. During this time period, jail was dangerous for civil rights protesters, so the riskiness of refusing bail made the strategy more effective with their supporters as well as their non-supporters, causing controversy and tension between the two parties. After being put under unfair racial discrimination, W.T. Massey bettered the lives of others in South Carolina through the civil rights movement, and years later speaking to others in the community and school system about the effects of unfair discrimination. The three main methods W.T. Massey used in order to enlarge the freedoms of African Americans in South Carolina are creating and using the jail no bail strategy, bringing the movement to the media and political parties' attention, and exposing corruption within the court system. First, W.T. Massey took part in a demonstration that presented the new jail no bail strategy, which eased the financial strain of the movement. This idea was formed so that the members of the civil rights movement could save money by refusing bail and serving out their sentences. This strategy was soon taken up by many protest groups, causing mass attention, more supporters of the cause, and allowed those participating to save money. Therefore, Massey created an idea that would affect the civil rights movement, causing racial equality throughout the state as well as the country. Second, the Friendship 9 protests caused the media and political parties to take the civil rights movement serious in South Carolina, because they realized that supporters of the movement, such as W.C. Massey, were willing to do what it took for freedom and equality. The Friendship 9 lunch counter protest caused a re-evaluation of many laws put into place on equality and freedom. W.T. Massey's actions therefore brought attention to the issues in the laws, causing many of the freedoms African Americans have today. Finally, after W.T. Massey participated in the Friendship 9 protest, he was put on trial, which brought attention to the corruption and bias within the court system. During these protesters' trials, the men were found guilty for trespassing and violence, just because the jury was prejudiced against the black skin color. These men had little substantial evidence for a crime. However, they were still charged with time at prison farms doing hard work. Massey revealed the corruption in the court system. Therefore, he helped cause the government to reevaluate the system and later go on to change the bias and prejudice which caused the fair court system that is in place today. Admittedly, the jail no bail strategy caused less money to be spent, but if this is so, then more people will be put in jail, causing there to be less protesters on the street. Nevertheless, there were so many supporters of this movement due to the media attention that the protests could still continue. So the ideas of Massey and his fellow protesters caused media attention and eased the financial strain. An example of one of the many racial tensions during the civil rights time period is the segregated lunch counters. W.T. Massey enlarged the freedoms of those in South Carolina by standing up for what he believed in, and he did what he felt was right for the benefit of African Americans. Massey later assured the Rock Hill newspaper that the Friendship 9 protesters didn't do what we did for accolades. We did it with humility in a nonviolent way, to show the injustices of segregation. We proved our point at great risk to ourselves and our families. We did what we believed was right for the betterment of all people. They did this by protesting at a segregated lunch counter, refusing to take bail, and serving out their sentences. These actions allowed the government to rethink their ideas of racial segregation, therefore giving the African Americans more freedoms and equality. Massey committed his life to breaking down racial barriers by devising the jail no bail strategy, creating political and media attention for the civil rights movement, and uncovering the corruption within the court system. W.T. Massey used dedication, sacrifice, and courage in order to change the opportunities people of later generations would have. W.T. Massey entered the lunch counter in order to protest against the unfair segregation, but he accomplished so much more.